Peter, go right ahead with your testimony.
All right, thanks. Hi, I'm Peter Wood. I'm a DC resident. I'm an ANC commissioner in Adams Morgan in Ward 1, and I'm also one of the commissioners who has had an encampment during this pandemic in their single-member district. I know a lot of people have been very critical with the Deputy Mayor of Health and Human Services for how they've handled encampments, how the CARE program has been enacted. Full disclosure, I'm one of those people, but I really want to make clear that hostility is not my goal here, or even just criticism. But I genuinely think that the hearts are in the right place here. It's just that practice and policy aren't always aligning with that sentiment. I think we have a common goal. I think, and I hope, that we just want to see people housed. I know that there's a Washington Post poll recently that suggests that there's support for the CARE program. As a researcher, I urge caution into reading into those results too far, partially because of the phrasing being pretty broad, and partially just my experience as commissioner showed that there's support for rapid housing, but not necessarily support for evictions. But even if there was, that doesn't justify the policy. That would just mean that a harmful practice is popular, and unfortunately, in US history, that's nothing new. But I do think it's important to kind of complement polling data statistics with really just a human component. We're talking about human lives here. So I want to kind of call on some experiences I've had. I guess I don't have as much time as I thought, but just as a commissioner talking to people, we'll start change names, but we'll start with Bill and Sue. As they're a couple, they recently had moved to Philadelphia to the first rented house. And a week after they moved in, Bill was laid off from work. They're desperate, heard there's construction work in DC, so they packed their belongings and moved. And since they arrived in DC 6 months ago, they've been homeless. And they say they've never, even considering that they would prefer to sleep in a park than in a shelter. This is a direct quote from Bill. "I was in one shelter and I watched a man get stabbed. It is one of the worst shelters in the district. And after that, they made a pact they'd never sleep in a shelter again." And we've seen this before where people kind of get pushed around and the displacement actually puts people in worse scenarios than they were beforehand. Does this sound familiar? Because it shouldn't, because that wasn't actually my experience. That was a quote from a Washington City paper article from May 15th, or excuse me, May 10th, 1985, before I was born. We're repeating the same behavior and expecting different consequences. I've even found older articles saying the same things. When we as a society meet voluntary relocation with forced displacement, we only exacerbate the problems that lead to homelessness in the first place. I have a lot of stories that are actually mine that I'd like to share, but I don't have time, but I'll just leave it at this. No one's excusing harassment. No one's excusing violent crime or destructive behavior, whether someone's housed or unhoused. What we're saying is that city government should lead by example and not harm its residents, but instead share patience and empathy. What better policy can we enact? What better precedent can we set? Thank you.